Hello and welcome to UI Chat from the Interface, the monthly show talking about everything Ubiquiti and networking. I'm your host Alex, and once again I'm joined by my co-host Evan McCann. Welcome, Evan.
Welcome, thank you.
No worries. How are we doing?
Good. Do you know the meme from the Green Mile? It's the guy saying, "I'm tired, boss." That's kind of how I feel with Ubiquiti news lately. It just feels like it just never ends. But that's good stuff for the show, I guess.
Yeah, no, I've not seen that meme, so no.
Yeah, well, that's about all you need to know is I'm tired, boss. But yeah, so much stuff. Yet again, another month where we're bursting at the seams of stuff to talk about here.
Oh yeah, definitely. Me and you were friend of the show, James Billsborough, and his partner Jay. They had us on their podcast Cross Wires, which I've been a guest on many times for Hostify and as myself and bits and pieces. So we recorded probably, was it about an hour and a half episode, I think, the other week. That's going to go out with them at some point. He's just going to get it edited. But we talked about Ubiquiti, that's why they had us on the show. But it was more about the state of Ubiquiti. It's something that we don't. Well, we just talk about news really, but we don't ever go into them as in general as a company at the moment. So it was a good hour and a bit of four of us just talking shop basically. So it was quite good fun. And then the links to that podcast episode when it goes live will be in the show notes, and links to James's website. So that was good. That was good fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun. And yeah, I know an hour into it, I was like, we're not wrapping up anytime soon, are we? But yeah, so it went long, but yeah, it was a good talk.
Yeah, it's a good job. It wasn't like John Gruber's episodes are 3 hours. Those episodes sometimes, the Daily Talk Show, whatever it's called. Yeah. Yeah,
at this rate, yeah. Our monthly episodes might be 3 hours before too long anyway, but hopefully not.
No, hopefully not. It'd be an absolute nightmare to edit. It's what he takes his time at the moment.
Yeah.
So that's all good. Yeah, as I said, you can check out James and Jay and all the bits and pieces in the show notes. They do a weekly podcast, or it used to be weekly. I think it's semi-weekly now. And they do live stuff on Twitch and different things, so that'll be all good. Just before we get started, there's quite a bit of news again. Thanks to everyone who has been listening to this podcast. Me and Evan really look forward to coming back every month to provide our takes on the latest Ubiquiti updates. We'd really appreciate it if you could review this show in the podcast app you're listening in, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anything else you use. If you're watching our gorgeous faces on YouTube, make sure to leave a comment and hit that like button. It really does help other people find this show. Without further ado, let's get back to the Ubiquiti news. So, you've been amazing as always, and we've got some flushed out show notes again. The most recent thing we'll talk about is the security issue that Ubiquiti had, which isn't really it's not really a breach per se like they've had in the past, but it's more of just a misconfiguration, as you call it. So
yeah, I mean, at least that's what they called it. So I think this was 5-6 days ago, so kind of mid-December for those in the future watching this. But there was an issue where I saw it originally posted on the community forums and Reddit as just hey, I logged in on unifi.ui.com and I'm getting someone else's consoles. Other people were saying they got push notifications for other people's devices. I think someone had a push notification for a camera that wasn't theirs. So
yep.
People obviously were concerned. They were posting saying hey, is this expected or what's going on here? And a couple hours after that, Ubiquiti acknowledged the issue. After some investigation, and it sounds like they did post a kind of brief post-mortem. They didn't go into a lot of details, but they did say around 1,000 accounts were mapped to another separate group of around 1,000 accounts, and that's why when you logged in through their Ubiquiti remote access, you were seeing the incorrect devices. Those accounts were just mapped to the wrong devices, or vice versa. So they were. Yeah, I think it was only occurring for about 9 hours, give or take, and they were pretty quick to acknowledge it, engage with people that were running into that and get it fixed eventually. But people, of course, are using this as the latest round of reasons to turn off their remote access or question their security.
Yep. There's one screenshot which we've got some links in the show notes. To the various forum threads, but there's one initial one where someone took a screenshot. They had access to 88 devices in their UniFi.ui account. It doesn't say how many of those were theirs, but I imagine a good who's got that many devices if you're not an MSP anyway. So I'd imagine a good section of those are not theirs, which is a bit worrying. But yeah, they did a okay job of getting the information out they needed to. So
yeah, a lot of people were very quick to congratulate them for acknowledging it and fixing it, and people were kind of happy at the end of that process after they posted that and acknowledged it. But yeah, I think it raises some very serious concerns because, for those, I guess maybe 2,000 accounts in total, however many people are using those accounts. Yeah, like that's the worst case scenario is someone had remote access to your console, to your video cameras. Everything in your network was reachable by a stranger, which is kind of the worst case scenario. So this is I think they maybe underplayed how serious it was because, they kind of put that at the bottom like, hey, someone maybe logged into your console, we'll email you. And they didn't really go into a lot of details about how this was allowed to happen, how they're going to prevent it in the future. A lot of people are, bringing up like, if things are truly secure, how would this even be possible? Do Ubiquiti employees have remote access to my console at any time if they want? Why aren't things encrypted end to end where this is impossible technically? But we don't know those details, and those are some good questions to ask.
Yeah. It looks like it had an issue. This was on the December 13th from about 7 a.m. till 4 p.m. UTC, so I don't know what that is, like 10 hours or something. Or maybe more than that. But it's not like it was over across a few days. It was the same day. But yeah, you are right. It's very vague on what the initial problem was. There's some good information from Ars Technica and some other threads as well about exactly go into more detail of what happened. But yeah, you are right. There's not much information here about why that technically was allowed to happen. So I don't think we'll ever find out, unfortunately. So
yeah, it'd be nice if we got like a Cloudflare length, technical step by step of literally everything. I will say this isn't uncommon. There's running a big service that millions of people use on the public internet is challenging, and there's probably I'm not really great to speak to these things, but a lot of people are pointing to it could be an issue with caching. A lot of people just say like, if you have a huge database and map XYZ group to XYZ group and someone clicks the wrong button, like this is just, it's all possible. It sounds like it's just human error. Good that they jumped on it quick, but still, yeah, for the paranoid among us, disable remote access.
Yeah, definitely. I guess you could use a VPN to get back to your cameras if you need to, and I think you'd miss out on the notifications if you did that.
So I think Protect is the one that's a little bit more difficult. Normally, remote access is you can go to unifi.ui.com, get to your console, and manage it that way. Yes, a VPN will replace that for like the network side. So yeah, that's if you're really concerned about something like this, turn off remote access, use a VPN that you control to get into your network that way. But I think Protect, the mobile app, doesn't work that way, or you don't get push notifications.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, there's more stuff with Protect, and probably with Access and some other applications that you will miss out on if you disable remote access.
Yeah. It's also worth bearing in mind that this is, in terms of how secure things are, that I would deem Protect like one of the most, in my eyes, one of the most secure systems. Just look at what happened with UniFi a while back. I don't know if you saw that, but they had to anchor own UniFi, and I think it was something to do with people could, all the screenshots of people's facial recognition were tied to a URL, and you could cycle through all the different URLs and get access to those screenshots. And I think the way they publicly dealt with it was really bad, and I think they even went so far as, I think Linus Tech Tips even said, we're not going to promote Anchor stuff anymore, just for how badly you dealt with this. So they are definitely far worse. There's always going to be something worse than something, but I think there's far worse systems out there to use. But I personally I'm going to leave remote access on my stuff. I don't think it's a problem. I think this is just a one-off thing, unfortunately. And I think sometimes people blow things out of proportion. But again, like you, I'm not trained in security, so I don't know the full extent of what could go wrong. But yeah, it's not good. But I'm happy that they fixed it the same day, essentially, which is good. Yeah. So, okie doke. I think I've lost track of what we discussed in different episodes now, but I think we mentioned the UniFi Express last episode. let's just have a quick look at the notes. So hold the line. We mentioned, in the last episode we mentioned the UXG Lite, and it's sort of, we didn't mention the UniFi Express. So that was sort of teased at the Whisperpalooza event, whenever that was. But since we last recorded, since we last published an episode, the UniFi Express device has now become available. I think you've got one as well. I can't purchase one yet, but it's not available in the UK. But yeah, the UniFi Express, it's quite a cheap little device and does quite a bit. There's a few limitations which we'll get to, but on the initial outset, so you've had one. If you had a chance to play with it enough to formulate some sort of opinion on it yet, or?
Yeah. The UXG Lite or Next Gen Gateway Lite was, I think it was November or late October. It was, I don't know, a month and a half ago. And then, the UniFi Express we knew about, but it kind of came out of nowhere for the official announcement. But yeah, it's a small kind of under the UDR on the console or cloud gateway side of the UniFi. So, it's complicated to talk about all these things because the terms keep changing and there's so many of them. But yeah, so it's a small UniFi OS console, cloud gateway, whatever they want to call it. It can manage itself and up to 4 additional devices. So it can be a very small little network controller. It's a router or gateway, and then also an access point. The most interesting part of the Express to me is that it can also convert into just being a normal access point. So if you have, like, I have a UDM in my home, I could use the Express as an AP for that network. For any self-hosted controller or any other UniFi network application anywhere, on a cloud key, on a cloud service, whatever, you could use the Express as an access point. So that's something you can't do with the Dream Router. That's something you can't do with any other console. It kind of has that convert into AP mode, which is new. So I think that's really interesting. Other than that, I know a lot of people are upset about the low device limit. Like, people are like, hey, I have 5 switches and APs. I can't manage the Express with, I'd kind of run, I have one extra device or a couple extra devices. I wish the Express could manage 10 devices or, a little bit more. So yeah, that 5 device limit total, one of which is the Express itself. You kind of have to think about it that way. That's kind of a bit of a bummer. And then it has the same processor and kind of internal components. A lot of them are very similar between the UXG Lite and the Express. So it could be, it doesn't run into issues with gigabit connections doing IDS, IPS, and that's because they didn't put it on. So they don't allow, I think the Express is the one, they don't allow Suricata intrusion detection, which I think is now suspicious activity?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so that feature isn't there. There's a few things that aren't in the current software that'll probably be added. But yeah, so besides the device limit, not having a few of those security settings, I think it's a great little starter kit.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically because you can reuse it. So for me in my UDM, I can't really upgrade it. I can't reuse it in another way. If you start with a UniFi Express, you can repurpose it as an AP when you kind of outgrow it. So I think it's a nice little thing. It's $149 US. I think it's only in the US, maybe Canada, and I think other areas are rolling out, quote unquote, soon. Yeah,
UK it's coming soon, and then the EU it's coming soon. Actually, is it coming in soon in the EU? Let's choose Austria or something. I think it's okay. It's in stock in the EU, but they've stopped. I did try and order one, and they've denied. So when I got the UXG Lite, I shipped it from the EU, not using any ship forwarding service. They just shipped it to me directly. They've stopped doing that now. So I went to place the order and they said your country's not supported. So I guess they've stopped doing that now. So that's all right. I'll just wait it out. But I think the criticism of it is a bit unjustified. If you look at the iPad lineup, you got the entry level, you got the medium one, you got the Pro ones. Similar sort of thing a little bit. You got devices that fit a specific need. If you think if you live by yourself in a flat, you're not going to, with, 2 rooms or something, and you're not going to run into an issue where you're going to have more than 5 devices. All you're going to have is that thing and maybe a switch to power some stuff off your TV. That's perfect. And then, as you said, you can take it with you and go along in your UniFi journey. I guess that's a marketing-friendly way of saying it. But yeah, if you move into a house with someone, you can then take that with you and not waste the money you've spent on it, and use it as an AP. I think you can use it wired. I'm not sure. Be cool to test that. Oh, you can. Cool. So you can use it as just a normal AP in your home network. So you're not wasting device. You're not having to sell something. You're not having to throw something away. So I think that's fine. It's devices with different needs. I think with certain things, I think people just expect everything to make sense to them. Like for me, there's certain iPad models that don't make any sense to me, and there's certain Mac models that don't make sense to me. It's the same with everything, like cars as well. So there's a need for it, and it's going to meet a certain thing. And if Ubiquiti made it more capable, it would then cannibalize other devices, and then it would also make it more expensive because they have to have more RAM to support UniFi. So I think it's fine. It's going to serve basic needs, and I think we mentioned on James's podcast, I think this is a replacement for AmpliFi.
To be seen. Yeah. AmpliFi hasn't gotten much love. Mm-hmm. The last AmpliFi is Ubiquiti's separate brand for mesh Wi-Fi, and it's kind of like a weird stepchild where it doesn't really get much attention. I think the last hardware release was the Alien in 2019, so they have some older equipment that is still for sale in the Alien, but yeah, this kind of seems like UniFi coming to take the what area AmpliFi covered before. So a lot of people are looking at it as like a replacement for a mesh system, and there's still so much confusion about what it can be and can't be. Like people want to use it as a gateway only. It's like, no, that's what the UXG Lite is. Okay, wait, do I need a cloud key? Can I use the cloud key and this together? Like people, it gets a little confusing down in that area, but yeah, I think the straightforward thing is if you're looking to get started, just buy one of these or two or three of these and go from there.
Yep.
So I think it's great for that entry level, and then yeah, the ability to reuse it is big because that's new.
Yeah, so if someone bought AmpliFi, well, two things. I'm on the EU store, and the What's New page has got a banner saying AmpliFi Alien €290 off. It says offers expires at the end of the year or when supply is exhausted. So I reckon that I read that as they're trying to get rid of stock. So potentially. But yeah, as I said, with the UniFi stuff, you buy an Express and you move into a bigger house eventually, you're going to want to buy more stuff because it is addictive. That's the problem with it. It is addictive to buy more stuff with it. So you can do more stuff, you can expand out your devices. So I think it's clever. So
yeah, it's a nice little device. Are you going to be reviewing it or looking at it anymore? Or have you said you can't even order one, right?
No, so when I can order one, I'll get one to review for Hostify. I've got the UXG Lite review already live, I think, or the first impressions of it, and there's some adopting bits and pieces. But yeah, as soon as I can buy it, I'll get one and try to adopt it to Hostify and see what it does. So yeah.
Nice.
This next one, UniFi Access Elevator. This was, if I remember rightly, this hit EA ages ago. I think whatever the EA store was around, this hit EA a while back and like just hung around for ages and then disappeared. I completely forgot it existed, and then it came to the store a few weeks ago, I think. So I'd imagine I've seen in hotels and things that people have RFID cards to get access to certain floors on lifts and elevators. I guess that's what this is for. Sort of restrict access to different floors and maybe in offices as well. So pretty good. Quite a good option if you've already bought into UniFi Access for your doors. You want to use it for your lifts as well, or elevators. So
right. So this kit is new, or what? The elevator hub is new, and then you can use the I guess only the G2 readers and the access cards and all the other UniFi Access stuff that's already out there. So the new stuff is the elevator part, right?
That's right, and these extenders as well.
Yeah, and I guess it makes sense because of they're clearly trying to make UniFi Access and UniFi Identity. That's another new thing is the subscription-free UniFi Identity. I think I don't know if it launched earlier, but it was noted in the show notes for the most recent release. So
yes, yeah,
they're clearly pushing on that, and yeah, the idea of tying what you should have access to into your elevator. I don't really know much about this world, but I think I know a lot of people that are in here were excited about that. And it's kind of a good complement to the card readers and the door entry. And, if you go all in, you kind of need those kind of devices to exist.
Yeah, some of the relays, it says car positions. I guess that means the position of the actual elevator unit itself. And it will tell you if the doors are open or closed or emergency stuff. So I'm not sure. I can kind of guess why you need the PB extenders, possibly. I'd imagine
the card reader.
Yeah, but imagine when maybe it's something to do with cables from the top of the lift when it moves down all the way down in the shaft. I don't know. Not really sure. It's not. So again, it's a world I'm not too familiar with. But I guess it's to do with when the actual elevator moves down and the cables get extended. I'm not sure how they manage cables in those sort of elevator shafts. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad there's professionals that know what they're talking about for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But
so in the UK, this is coming soon. It's about £900. Probably similar price in the US. Let's just have a quick look just for consistency. Yeah, $999 in the US, and it says add to cart, so it's actually in stock. That's quite nice. That comes with 10 RFID cards, 2 PoE extenders, G2 reader, and the elevator hub. So pretty cool. Next one, the Cloud Console. So this is now available outside of the US for the very first time. That's UK, Canada, Europe, and Australia. Previously, it's only been available in the US. This is Ubiquiti's quote-unquote official hosting. Obviously, they've got some features that are locked behind that, like the Magic VPN thing and some other features. But this is essentially their cloud hosting to sort of compete with Hostify a little bit. I guess that's the aim behind it anyway. But I've signed up for a free trial. It seems to work okay. Pricing wise in the UK, I'll have to have a quick look here.
Well, I know they changed pricing. Like they launched in the US, 6 months ago? I don't know, sometime this year, I think. And I think when they launched, they were mentioning like a 5,000 device plan or some very high. They said in the future we'll add another tier, but for a while it was just I think $29 US pricing for 500 devices, I believe. And then since that initial release, they kept the $29 a month price for US customers, but they reduced that to, I believe it's 100 devices.
Yeah, so it's £29 and 100 devices.
Yeah, so they did the same thing here. So it's $29 for 100 devices, and then I think it's $99 for 1,000.
1,000 devices. Yeah.
So there's those two, and I assume they're trying to make those two tiers in the UK and the 4 other countries.
Yeah, so I've got the exact same thing here. So it actually ends up being a bit more expensive here. Apple do the same thing. They keep the same numbers, but they use it everywhere. It ends up being more expensive here. So 1,000 devices for £99, and then £29 for 100 devices. I like the wording. Suggests a few things. Because currently, the Cloud Console only supports UniFi network applications. That makes me think that other features may come down the line, like UniFi Talk, I'd imagine. And
you think Talk? You think Talk's the most likely?
Talk and Access, those two. Protect might be a bit tricky. The cost. I don't think they'll do it because they've got the privacy aspect of the hard drives and all the footage, and I would imagine the sheer cost of handling that amount of bandwidth coming into your servers is going to be astronomical, and maybe they charge. Yeah,
and I think they literally made a commercial about UniFi Protect saying, "Hey, it's on premises." So I think to them that's a selling point. I don't think that they would ever. I mean, maybe they could come up with a number big enough to host UniFi Protect for you and record your footage. But I think they're trying to position UniFi Protect as the ironically enough, given the news from last week, it's the security conscious option where it's on prem and you control it, give or take, remote access issues. But yeah, so I don't see Protect being a cloud service. Yeah, I think Talk and Access, that could be interesting. And, maybe even, basically everything besides Protect, they could probably host for you and charge you for it.
I think so. Connect would be a really good one because I can see Connect. I can see Connect, the little device which is PoE powered, HDMI out, not the viewport, but the whatever display cast, I think it's called. I can imagine that being useful in restaurants and cafes. When you've got those TV screens with the menus on them, and they're obviously cloud connected because every time there's a menu change, all the chains, they all have a menu change system wide. So I'd imagine that's a market they're going after, and they could have that cloud hosted. I imagine that will get a bit messy routing network wise to have those coming back to an on-prem device somewhere. That would probably get a bit messy. So if that could be cloud hosted and all adopted outside, that'd be pretty cool. So.
Yeah, I think another option would be good because right now it's you buy a Dream Machine Pro SE Dreamwall, one of those that runs those apps, or add a cloud key Gen 2. So I think there's probably going to be a bunch of people that would say, hey, I'd rather just pay you every month rather than buy a little cloud key, or I don't understand what a cloud key is. Can I just pay you and make it work?
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. This next one got me a bit excited. I remember when I used to work at the WISP, I used to work out, we got into fibre planning. Obviously, because we just started doing fibre. But the software world for fibre planning is very expensive, very messy, and very hard to use. That's just how it works, unfortunately. Some obscure software is just a complete nightmare. So, for free, again, Ubiquiti love offering things for free to the WISP industry, and it's just really good because it keeps them customers, hopefully. They've essentially added a Fibre Deployment Design Centre, and it will suggest PON design, including routers, switches, and splitters. And one of the things for me that was such a massive issue is because fibre is so passive, you can't actually log into anything like a wireless radio to see how long something's been connected, how long, where it's connected to. You can't then trace where someone's routed to. But it's got all maps included. You can place on the maps and on topology views where splitters are and where the ONUs are connected and the speed. Oh, fantastic. Really, really, really good. It got vault placement as well, so like underground vaults. Yeah, the fact this is free and it's all live and connected to UISP is absolutely amazing. So good on them for doing this. There's definitely people that would be interested in using this.
Yeah, there's two of them, right? UISP Design Center and UniFi, either way. UniFi Design Center?
There's a UniFi Design Center and there's UISP, I think, yes. So yeah.
Right, yeah. I love that they offer them. They were very helpful for me, like for planning outdoor, fixed wireless links. They have very good software for that, where you can say, hey, I have 2 radios here. What should I buy? So it's helpful planning, and it's also handy for Ubiquiti. It's kind of like a sales tool of like, hey, this is what you're trying to do. This is the equipment, and you can even just like add it to cart here. So it's a pretty slick little thing, and yeah, I love that they added Fibre too, because yes, that planning those kind of networks kind of get complicated. So free tools like this are nice to have.
Oh yeah, and the fact that it's not a separate login, because the software we used to use was a separate service that would have so many seats available and have to pay for more seats, and just a complete nightmare. And this looks, and you can click on the items on the map. I'll put some pictures on screen, but you can click on the things on the map of the different houses, and it will link you to the ONU, which is for their house, which is just it's just magic. Yeah, where was this when I was working there? But anyway, absolutely fantastic. And yeah, I think for them UISP is definitely a lock-in feature. So if they can, again, like in America, there's more WISPs than we have. There's way more of them around. But if they can give someone who's starting out all the tools for free, they are more likely to stick with the company for their certain things. So yeah, really, really good. We've also got, this was rushed out very quickly, 8024. It was released in beta not that long ago, like 12 days ago. Well, yeah, and then 7 days ago the GA version was released. So got quite a few features in here. One of them is the access logs, or the admin logs, so you can see who changed certain things, which is quite cool. So
yeah, this 8007 I think was the first GA version 8 release, and that was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
.0.21 was going to be the first update, and that release I think it was put to release candidate and then pulled. So this minor bump to .24 was just that original release that they had an issue with. I forget what the exact issue with .21 was. But yeah, the admin changelog is the big kind of headlining feature of this, and this is something I've been looking for, and I know a lot of other people have been looking for years, where it's like you log in, you don't know what changed or who did it. So It's finally having that long list of like, hey, Bob logged in at this time, changed the Wi-Fi password, fire Bob. So yeah, having like trackability and kind of a history of what changed and when, very good for troubleshooting and for controllers where you have multiple people controlling it. Handy to have. So yeah, that's great to see. And there's a couple other minor things in this release, but that's kind of the big one.
Yeah, I'll put a screenshot on screen. I've got an example on my controller here. So I went and edited a switch, and you can see here that period is turned off and on again, and something was changed. So it's very, very consolidated and quite easy to use all of the features. So it's good that they've done that. In terms of the other features, you can now have a default network limit to 255. So I think
it was
that means,
raised. It was raised to 255. So you can have increased default network limit to 255. So that's like if you have 255 different virtual networks or VLANs.
Yep.
It'll just say, hey, can't add any more. I think it varied, and I think it used to be 64.
Okay.
I don't know if it was 64 for every device or certain devices, but I've seen that screenshot where it says like you've hit the max of 64. Wow. So now you can have up to 255. I guess they just increased the number of bits they're using to store that number or whatever they did, because now that'll be good for people that have larger networks.
Yeah, so some devices such as USG and in-wall APs have lower limits. Not sure what they're actually be.
They're probably still at 64 then, if there's a few devices that can't support that.
One thing I didn't understand was added support for PPPoE WAN without credentials. I don't know how that works. How would you have a triple PoE session without any credentials? It's really weird because we used to use triple PoE where I used to work, but
I wonder if it'd be certificate. I don't really know much about PPPoE, but I wonder if it's like a certificate based, because that's typically the other option. Is you either have a username and password, or you'd have some other way to prove your identity. So it might be a MAC address. It might be MAC address is pretty insecure because you can fake that.
Yeah.
But if like your ISP gives you a certificate, or I don't know what other options there are besides a username and password.
I think it is just there's username and password, and then there's also a service name, which is like a tertiary authentication. You have to put a third option in.
Yeah.
Don't know. It's really weird. I guess it just authenticates without a password. I don't know. Just makes that tunnel.
How is that or how is that PPPoE then?
I don't know.
But they support it now, though.
Yep. There we go. There's a few other bits and pieces. There was some issues apparently with the XG APs. You couldn't configure them, and some other bits and pieces. All the links are in the show notes. But yeah, another good update to UniFi Network. So good. You did touch on it earlier with UniFi 3.2.7 to 3.2.7, subscription-free UniFi identity. So this was released the other day, updated my Dream Machine pretty quickly after it came out. There's some really cool features in here. There's a few bits. I think we mentioned DNS Shield on the show before, but that's come out and I've tested it out. Yeah.
Yeah, and in the show, show notes, in the release notes, they cover a couple things that I don't know if they were in before, but they were definitely in like early access stuff, like the Shadow Mode they had talked about before, VLAN Magic we had talked about I think last month, DNS Shield, and then loop protection. That's their kind of spanning tree but not spanning tree.
Yep.
And I think the main thing with loop protection is it'll support the what is it, the mini?
Flex Mini.
Flex Mini. Yeah, I couldn't think of Flex. The Flex Mini, because the Flex Mini doesn't support spanning tree, but I bet it will support loop protection. And I don't know if there's other devices that don't support spanning tree. I don't know why else they would try to reinvent the wheel with spanning tree as something,
It's mainly designed for non-unified devices.
Yeah. And I bet other clients too. It's just, if you cable your network incorrectly, it won't cause an issue now. And then inner space, that replaces the map. So that's another UniFi application. So those were like the big headline features, and I think Shadow Mode and subscription-free identity are probably the two most interesting ones.
Yeah, Cody's done a video on Shadow Mode. I know he listens to the show, so hey Cody. It's like high availability, but not quite yet. It says, again, that currently wording, it says currently Shadow Mode operates as a warm spare. This will become fully automated in an upcoming release. So in the future, it will have a high, is that called a hot spare? I guess it is, hot spare. And you won't have to do any manual intervention, because currently if you have a Dream Machine Pro or SE that dies, you've got to physically move the cables over and the hard drive, I think. But yeah, it's good, and I hope that's good that it become automated in the future. So
yeah, I'm interested in how that works, because the physical cabling gets a little tricky, and then high availability is always a little bit complicated. So right now, Shadow Mode is as simple as possible. Like it's basically you just have a dumb spare sitting there. So you have two Dream Machine Pros, one of which you're using, one of which is just sitting there ready to go if the other one fails. Doing anything like active, where you have two active at the same time, or kind of an automated failover, which is apparently what they're trying to do. That can be a little bit tricky physically wise, because you need at least two WAN cables for every WAN connection you have, and the same thing on the LAN side. So you need to double up your cabling. You might need like a switch in front of. So I would love to know details about that. But apparently that's coming. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do, because right now it's nice to have, but yeah, it's as simple as possible, and you might as well buy a hardware spare at that point. Like, it's not really high availability in the truest sense.
I remember there was something, I think we've talked about before, there was something in a video about that Power Pro PDU thing that was going to enable the high availability. If I can find the thing I'm on about.
Are they just talking about for power backup?
No, so
or is that going to like handle failing over your WAN connections and those kind of things?
Yeah, so it's it says virtual router redundancy. If you go on the PDU Pro listing, it says virtual router redundancy support is coming soon, requires multiple gateways, and there's not a way of seeing how they're going to do it. But
well, that's an industry standard. VRRP, I believe, is the acronym. So that's Virtual Router Redundancy Program. So that's like, for me and where I work during my day job, like that's the world I live in. That's an expected feature where you have a very important site. You'd have basically two of everything. You'd have two firewalls, two core switches, at the very least, if not more.
Yeah.
And yes, the idea is always so if it requires a cable move, that's not really solving the issue. It's good to have. So yeah, VRRP or their version of it, if that's what they're planning to go with, yeah, that'll be nice.
Yeah, I'm not sure if VR is what they're intending. They haven't mentioned it on this show. I'd imagine it's that kind of feature. They're not going to support the industry standard. It's going to be their own version. It's kind of like loop protection, where it's like that's a branded thing for what could be a standard. So they're doing that with a lot of stuff, where it's their own way of doing it, and it's a easy to use system, and it supports the 80% of features that people need. But if you need more, you'll probably need to buy very expensive equipment and set up VRRP and have a true HA setup. Yeah. Okay, just to see what they do. Just quickly mention DNS Shield. We talked about it before, but I've managed to turn it on my network yesterday. To get it to work properly, you have to set each VLAN to have auto DNS, and then it will pick up the gateway IP, and it's under security, and then general, and then you've got DNS Shield. So hover over that. It says ensures privacy and security of DNS traffic by encrypting it using DNS over HTTPS or DOE. With Auto, Google and Cloudflare are used as the DOE servers, and you can change those to what you want. And imagine what they're using is those HTTPS versions of those DNS servers, so you can turn it off or you can manually set it. So that's all good.
Yes, encrypting DNS, always fun.
Yeah, and if you click on manual, there's also different categories. So there must be about 200 different categories in here. So you can choose your own. You can have, you can have all sorts of different things. You have Cisco Family Shield, Cisco Family Shield IPv6, and I guess these are all encrypted. So some of them are listed as DOH if they are actually encrypted or not. So I think that's pretty good. Lots of DNS script as well, or all sorts of different options in there. So that's all good. So fantastic. Yeah. So UniFi OS 3.2.7 is now out for various UniFi Cloud Consoles, I should say. So yeah, I should be able to update now, and I reckon that's pretty okay to do so. I haven't seen any problems on my end, so all good. Next one. Now this is the second time Ubiquiti have done like they pulled an Apple, like they've done a behind-the-scenes launch essentially, and then released I imagine like a embargo, and had creators release different reviews at different times. These are the UniFi Pro Max Switches, so they got like iPhone 15 Pro Max sort of naming, so it's quite funny. Yeah, I'd imagine your UniFi Switch guy is gonna have to get a lot bigger now. We got some new in-between switches. These are kind of similar to enterprise switches, but with more PoE options. So it's interesting to see the line expand. And they've also got this quite interesting lighting feature, which will help you find different things. But yeah.
Yeah, this is, for those counting at home, the 31st and 32nd UniFi switch. And I think that doesn't even include everyone they currently sell. I think there's a few first-gen models that aren't in that 32. So either way, a lot of choices. These are nice, just mainly for people that want a lot of 2.5 gig and PoE Plus or PoE Plus Plus. So I think moving from the Pro 24 PoE up to the Pro Max 24 PoE, I'm still getting this straight. You get the, I think, what is it, like 8 or 16 2.5 gig ports, so a lot more multi-gig ports, and then you also get, I think, double the PoE Plus Plus, like the 60 watt really high power ports. So yeah, that's the main thing. Also that's my serious take on it, is like, if you need more speed, more PoE, these are nice upgrades to the current Pro switches. The kind of sillier side is the lighting. That was the big focus of the launch. That was a lot of the kind of day one videos were like, wow, RGB lights, look at this. Yes, so I think it's a really technically interesting idea. You can totally, I would hope you're able to just fully disable them and use the switch normally. But yeah, this is something unique to the Pro Max. It's ether lighting, where it kind of ties into the UniFi AR mode on your phone. So you can hold up your phone. You've been able to do this for a couple of years now. You can hold up your phone and kind of see what's on each port with that kind of AR view. And now this kind of is extending that to the lighting of the port. So you can say, hey, I want to know, or light up the ports that are on VLAN 10, and then like those ports will light up, or light up the port that this device is connecting to. So it could help with kind of remote, if you have like a remote hands-on network technician who doesn't know where to plug something in, like that could be a use case, or just tracking down a device or whatever. So I think it has some uses, and it's also kind of ridiculous that it's just RGB lighting on a switch that could be in a data center that no one will ever see, or a network rack that no one is ever going to see. So it's both fun and potentially useful and silly all at the same time. No, yeah, I think before you had to go up to an enterprise switch to get 2.5 gig. Now the Pro Max has a bunch. I think it's 8 or 16, give or take, if you have the 24 or 48 port model. Yeah. So you can have up to 8 or 16 2.5 gig ports with these switches, and you can also have the high power PoE Plus Plus on those. So I think it's probably preceding the Wi-Fi 7 or more Wi-Fi 6E access points. I mean, there are a few cameras. I'm trying to think of PoE Plus Plus devices that they have. I think there's like the AI DSLR, or one of those high-end cameras. I think is
PTZ camera is BT.
Yeah. So there's a few very high-end cameras that need 60 watts. I'm trying to think if there's any APs. I think maybe the Base Station XG.
Yeah, the big daddy AP needs BT power. Yeah.
But I bet it's going to be really common for Wi-Fi 7. So we've seen a few rumblings of Wi-Fi 7 models, nothing official. We don't know the models, but I bet a few of those Wi-Fi 7 APs are going to need, ideally, 2.5 gig and PoE Plus Plus 60 watts. So this will be good switches for that, and then as a bonus, you get some RGB too.
Yeah, so what I mentioned was the Pro Max switch hasn't got all of them PoE++, just 16 of them are PoE++. And the left of 8 are just PoE+. So yeah, I think it's going to serve a need. Again, there's a lot of blurred lines with the switch lineup, as you know from doing your guides, but not too sure how useful the ether lighting system will be, but we'll see. So
yeah, Ubiquiti's going to Ubiquiti.
Yep. Oh, dear me. Yeah, you go on.
The only thing I want to add to that is there was that post, the Pro Max Fibre cables coming. Someone just basically plugged in a bunch of Christmas lights. So it was a joke, but a good one.
Did they actually power the lights off PoE?
No, I'm pretty sure it's just a string of... Like, someone made that fake product page as if they were selling Christmas lights.
Yes, we'll put the link in the show notes, but yeah.
Yeah, and then they showed a picture of their rack with a bunch of, Pro Max fiber cables.
Yeah, they should make some PoE Christmas lights. That'd be quite cool. So
Yeah, I know. I think they make enough devices. I don't think they. Yeah, I think maybe some things are best left to the imagination.
You mentioned more PoE Max models are coming, non-PoE and others. Do you think? What do you think by that?
Yeah, so that they did in their announcement post, they literally explicitly said more Pro Max models are coming.
Oh, I missed that.
So they are definitely going to make non-PoE versions of these, which kind of removes half the reason for their existence with the a high amount of PoE plus.
Yeah.
But they're going to have non-PoE versions of them. Probably whatever, $100 is off the price. You can buy without PoE, something like that. And I wonder if they're going to have lower port counts or other configurations. Maybe one that's like more focused on fiber, kind of like the aggregation model, or maybe they'll have like a desktop 8 ports model. I'm sure they're going to have probably some others besides those 24 and 48.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what the only thing I can think about with the lighting feature, what that's useful for is, so where I used to work, I used to do a lot of remote troubleshooting with people on the phone. I say, oh, check this port, and I'm like, you know what I mean? That's that sort of remote support. But if you could light up those ports and say, oh, it's the green one, one that's lighting green. But to me, how often, or maybe deployments where you're helping Wi-Fi installers all the time, and not necessarily WISP stuff, because you wouldn't use UniFi and WISP. So
yeah, I think that there's this is solving a problem that's already solved in a pretty take a picture and post it on social and kind of way. So yes, like to me, typically you'd have a patch panel. You would label that patch panel.
Yep.
You would get your structured cable organized and say, okay, the wall port is this label that lines up with what's on the patch panel. That patch panel lines up with that switch port. This is kind of a shortcut. So yes, it could save you labeling. If you don't have a patch panel, if this is like a home network or just a small business who doesn't want to pay someone to do that, you could have the port light up. Yeah, so it does have some use. It's also mostly, it feels like a gimmick or just kind of a pretty kind of feature.
I've got some real-time follow-up. I've been on the website, the Ubiquiti's main marketing website. There are 4 switches available, listed in the Pro Max standards. You've got Pro Max PoE, 2 of those. And you've also got Pro Max to non-PoE. Same form factor, just no PoE on them. So if you go to UniFi, UI.com, switching, and then you got Professional Max New. You scroll right down to the bottom, there's a list of the products. And you're right, the 48 ports and the 24 ports just don't have PoE on them. And I can't see what else you're going to gain from that. But yeah.
Where on the website?
So if you go UI.com and then you click on switching.
Okay.
And then Professional Max, and then you scroll all the way down below the video of the actors and things. Yeah.
Okay, so they did confirm. I don't know if that wasn't there before.
Not sure.
But yeah, now they do have it on their website at least that the non-PoE models are coming.
Yeah.
And they did, speaking of the website, they did slightly redesign a few things, I think.
Oh, really?
Well, it looks like it. I don't know if that was in December. It might have been late November. But just like the homepage and their menus up top. A little bit.
Oh, they're very Apple-y again. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to me, what are you getting from the enterprise that's non-PoE for that? If they don't do enterprise switches that aren't PoE, then okay, that's where we lose a little bit of its sheen. Yeah,
there's a lot of overlap. It's really it's becoming very hard to choose or recommend one model. It's like if you need these 3 specific features, you need to get this specific model. If you don't care about it, you can get 4 or 5 different ones that are very similar.
Yeah.
The enterprises, they'll probably push up. I would imagine more 10 gig fiber, more 25 gig, SFP 28 ports, more and more on the enterprise side to kind of justify that tier below. But it's getting crowded.
Yeah, so I'd imagine if you want 2.5 gig and PoE, you get Enterprise. If you wanted 2.5 gig and no PoE, you get the Pro Max. By the look of my very brief look at it, with the Pro Max and PoE ones, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that you can get the Enterprise 48 PoE, which has 2.5 gig and PoE. Yeah. But yeah, the specific combination of 2.5 gig and PoE plus, I think that's the Pro Max. I think that's the only place you can get that specific combination. Maybe.
Yeah, looks like it. So, again, all the links to the things we're looking at right now in the show notes. But yeah, we'll move on from switches, getting a bit headachy. So.
Yeah.
A while ago, I think it was in July or June, Ubiquiti. Well, okay, there was a leak of the UniFi Cable Modem. It was leaked by cox.com, one of the ISPs in the US. And just in the last few days, this officially has gone live. So it's on sale now in the US only for $279. And I've found one video from. I'm gonna put a link in the show notes. It's Unified IT, I think their channel is. They unboxed it and tested it out. It seems to work pretty well. And yeah, essentially this is just a cable modem which can do up to 2.5 gig because you've got a 2.5 gig Ethernet port. And it looks like it works with only US providers. If you buy it in another country and want to try it out, it's not going to work. You're going to have to get the MAC address authenticated by your ISP. The demo I watched, he managed to activate it via an app, which is quite good. You don't have to ring anyone up. I think it was with Xfinity. He managed to put a MAC address directly into the app and it activated it after he got the right one. But yeah, looks cool. I can't work out the technicalities behind it because when you plug the Ethernet port into the WAN port of the UDM, the cable modem ends up with an IP address from the LAN side of the UDM to manage it.
So it's basically doing kind of like a VLAN trunk.
Yeah.
Where it's passing, typically it would pass a public IP to your WAN port, and I guess they're setting up an automatic tagged VLAN to access your management network as well.
Sounds like it, yeah.
One way to do it. Yeah, the lack of support for other countries and for other providers is the big asterisk. And to me, the size, the fact that it's a full rack width, it does fit in with other rack equipment. But to me, a modem could be it could almost be like the size of a UniFi Express. It could just be a little box.
Yeah.
So it's a weird device that they made. Hopefully they support more providers and more countries and all that. But yeah, another shiny silver box for your rack there.
Yes, the video I watched mentioned that it's uncommon to apparently find a modem that works with both business and residential.
Yeah.
So this works with Comcast Xfinity Residential, Comcast Business, Charter Spectrum Residential, and then Cox, which is the one that leaked the information, residential only. So, if he says
that is kind of unique, but I believe it's only coax.
Yes.
To me, we have Comcast Business, but we have fiber connections from them, so this would not be. This isn't an ONT; it's a cable modem. So if you have a Comcast residential or business cable connection, you could use this or Cox or Charter.
Yeah. I would imagine, just based on how fiber stuff is done and my experience with UniFi Fibre, UISP Fibre, that they won't end up making an ONT because of the way things are managed. Unfortunately, with a ADSL modem or VDSL modem, there's no communication between that modem. There's no requirement for that modem to be from the ISP. Obviously, there was in the 90s, but not anymore. And with a cable modem as well, it's the same thing. It looks like it's just a MAC address, but with an ONT, those systems are very tightly integrated with the OLTs. Management-wise, they've got activations, they've got VLAN set on them, they've got there's communication between them with signal levels. You have to authenticate them. So, and generally, if you bought your own third-party one, they're not gonna. If you plugged in, it's not gonna work. It just isn't. It might pick up some light, but it isn't gonna work because that specific ONT has to be told on the OLT if it's to be activated and then tied to a specific data plan. So I heard one person say on the forums, "Oh, it'd be good if they make their own ONT," but that's not.
That's what UFiber is. So
Yes.
For at least the way I had Verizon Fios, and I had a Motorola ONT.
Yep.
That is Verizon's equipment. So that's connecting to their network, authenticating to their OLT.
Yep.
Unless they want to make both sides, they wouldn't have a UniFi ONT, because that's what UFiber is. You could buy the whole kit from them, where the provider OLT is UISP Fibre, right? UISP Fibre, and then you'd have the ONT, and that would be provider side equipment, whereas this UniFi Cable Internet is customer equipment.
Yeah, and also I think with modems and modems is ADSL and coax as well. You providing your own like this one might have better performance than those sort of things, and also the guy in the video mentioned as well that modems have their own Wi-Fi built in as well. That can, if someone just used that for their own all of their devices in the house, you could see a performance hit. With Fibre, I don't think there's any performance hit. It's just all passive, so it's just all it's doing is converting light to Ethernet. There's not going to be no performance gained really. All the routing happens in the cabinet, so even the ORT doesn't do any routing. So, yeah, this I'm not sure what percentage of the US is on cable modems, but it's probably quite high. So, yeah,
I am right now. And most of these providers will try to sell you or allow you to rent an all-in-one, where it's a modem and a router and a wireless access point. Those used to be terrible. Some of them are okay now. But yeah, if you can buy your own modem, whether it's this or something else, you're probably better off.
Yeah, and also I think they're about $30 a month for renting a modem or something. That's quite a lot of money. Yeah. So yeah, this looks like a UniFi switch. It's the same design. Got the touchscreen. I guess you can check the signal levels. I don't know how the DOCSIS system works, but I guess you can check stats of the upstream provider. There's the management IP, so you can log in remotely and see what you need to do with it, obviously. It's got a DOCSIS 3.1 port and then 2.5 gig Ethernet. Again, the video I watched, the guy mentioned it didn't have the RPS port, but I think if you had this anyway, you'd have it with a UXG Pro or UDM Pro. And you can just power it off the back of that device basically. So if you've got the need for RPS, you're going to have a UDM Pro or UDM SE or UXD Pro. You can just power it off the modem port. So all good, cool. Yeah, it's on sale now. It looks like it's in stock, so all good. And there's a hefty amount of documentation as well about activating the cable internet modem as well. So it says how to connect, how to cable it up, what to do in certain situations, who to contact. There's links to contact the ISPs and notes about different things. So fantastic. You've put in the show notes about the IT nerdy sale that Ubiquiti got on. So this is US only at the moment, and there's some big sales to be had on different devices. So
yeah, so I know for Black Friday, at least same thing. At least in the US, I think maybe Canada. They had the Dream Machine Pro on sale for $279, and now they have the same thing, but a couple other devices. They also have the Dream Wall is $200 off. The Protect NVR and NVR Pro are on sale. G4 Doorbell Pro and the G4 PTZ, that very expensive PoE++ device. Oddly enough, maybe they'll sell some of those and some Pro Max switches.
Wow, the G4 PTZ's got $800 off.
Yeah, that's
wow.
I mean, they must not be selling many of them. That's my reading there. And I know the cynical take is they're same thing with the Black Friday sale. The people are saying they're reducing the price of the Dream Machine Pro because they're trying to get rid of inventory. Maybe, and maybe there'll be a Dream Machine Pro Max or Dream Machine Enterprise soon, and they're clearing out space. But if you're looking for one of those devices, those are good deals on them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, everything's about $100 off, apart from the PTZ, which is nearly $1,000 off. So,
yeah. Fire sale on the G4 awesome. PTZ camera.
Very last thing we're going to get to before we wrap up is the WiFiman Desktop App. This was released for macOS natively on M1 chips and M2 chips. This is essentially, it's going to allow you to do Ubiquiti Discovery now. And also teleport one-click VPN. I think I mentioned that in the last episode about the teleport one-click VPN, which I've used quite quite a few times now, which is quite good. But yeah, it's good that they've done it. The Hostify, we just launched the Hostify Discovery tool. They work in different ways. The WiFiman Desktop App is doing a big network discovery, so it's actually going to pick up clients as well as unified Ubiquiti devices. So it's interesting how those differ now. So yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, and it's weird. I mean, they previously had the iPad app basically on the Mac App Store. This is now a native, real quote-unquote Mac app, but it does the same stuff. It almost looks the same, but yay, I guess. I don't know. It's a little bit of. It still looks like an iPad app, and yeah, that's all it is. It's kind of like a LAN scanner, and then you can connect to a teleport VPN through it. So if you use teleport, which is really just easy to use WireGuard, you could use this to connect to it. Otherwise, just set up a WireGuard VPN and use the Hostify Discovery tool or some other LAN scanner app, and you don't have to bother with this.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to work. It's not in the Mac App Store, as you mentioned, but you can still use the iPad version on Mac OS, which I was doing for a while, so see how it goes. So it's good that they've got a new tool available, and there's not much you can do with it. You can't adopt any UniFi devices like you can with the Hostify one, but yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, it's weird that it's called WiFiman, because that app on your phone is like a Wi-Fi analysis and spectrum analyzer kind of tool. But this is WiFiman for teleport VPN and scanning the network. I don't understand what the branding is there, but
yeah, that WiFiman on the iPhone it's got a feature removed. It used to be able to do a iPerf test, like a branded iPerf test directly from your phone to your cloud console, and that feature's been removed. That was a really good way of seeing if your Wi-Fi was actually operating correctly without having to do an internet speed test. So it's a shame that feature's gone now. But
well, you have one of those little. They have a little WiFiman hardware device, right? Too.
Yep.
Is that feature removed even if you have that thing? Because I thought the idea of that was it was like a Wi-Fi testing device.
All that thing does. WiFiman Wizard, it's called. I'm not sure where it is though. Got the box where I could see it there, but oh well. All that allowed you to do was do spectrum scans, basically, because the iPhone, Apple have restricted what third-party developers can do with the Wi-Fi chips in the iPhone, and it was just a way of getting around that essentially. And there was a thing about it being MagSafe compatible that I haven't managed to get to work, but I have it like clipped to the back of your phone. But yeah, all that does is just a hardware device to allow you to do spectrum scans, and you could get the like waterfall graphs, and not waterfall graphs, but the bar chart graphs of all the Wi-Fi in your area. So that seemed to work alright, but that feature still is not available on either of those, which is a bit annoying. So
yeah,
it's quite useful.
It's time to rebrand. We need a new name. We need a new app. They'll fix it then.
Yeah. Oh man. Just before we go, you've been working on an update to your website, which I love, by the way. You've got like a little video thing, like an animation video on the top of the website. You got some bits of colour come back into the site, which is quite nice. But yeah, just talk us through what you've changed on McCann Tech.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, I use Squarespace behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I set my website up so long ago that it's the quote-unquote old version. So they moved from 7.0 to 7.1 a long time ago, and for a while I was stuck on the old. They gave me finally an option to convert, so I just was like, hey, sure, why not? So I hit that big scary button and then broke a lot of things. So most of what I was doing was fixing the weirdness, which I'm still trying to figure out a few things. But then because I did that kind of like behind the scenes upgrade, I did have the, all the new stuff that Squarespace offers, like those, the little video at the top that I have.
Yeah.
I'm still playing around. I don't know if any of this will stay there. It might be too much. It might be ugly. But yeah, just having a lot of fun. And there are a few things. The biggest thing that I wish it added, and it didn't, was when you click on an image, you can't like pinch to zoom on mobile. It drives me nuts. I know it drives other people nuts, especially for like comparison charts when there's a lot of rows or columns. You can't zoom in. You can't pinch to zoom like you'd expect. So I still... there's a hacky way to enable that, but I still can't do that. But yeah, so a little bit of a light redesign, and still poking around and making it look a little bit better.
But yeah, looks good. Looks good, man. Very clean, no ads, so it's all good.
Yes, and yeah, I am wrapping up. I'm trying to do two kind of at the same time, which is slowing me down and making it harder. But I'm trying to do a Express and a UXG Lite review. So hopefully the UXG Lite review will be out first. Hopefully that'll be soon, and then the Express will shortly probably be after that. Are you doing? You said you're working on some video reviews of those, or what were you doing?
Yeah, I'm working on a UXG Lite video review. So I did a first impressions and unboxing, how to get it adopted, but I'll work on a review of that for Hostify. And then UniFi Express obviously I can't order it yet. But in terms of what I'm working on for the interface, last year I did a roundup or like year in review, that was what it was called, of Ubiquiti. So I've started working on that, basically just listing all the stuff they've released in the year. And like a little paragraph about what I thought about the year, which seemed to do quite well last year, so do the same again, I think. But that's about it. So I hope everyone has a really, really good Christmas. And as always, you can find this podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and more. For a full description of this show, visit the episode link in the show notes, and of course, check out those chapters, complete with images to make your listening experience much more enjoyable. We've got an ad-free premium version of this show available on Apple Podcast. That will help support this episode and future podcasts we do. Thank you for joining me, Evan, on this episode of the UI Chat podcast. Where can people find you online if they want to find out more about what you do?
evanmccann.net.
Fantastic. Links from the show notes. Thanks for listening to this UI Chat podcast. If you like what we do, follow this show on all the podcast platforms and on YouTube. You can give it a rating. This helps other people find this show. Again, I hope everyone has a really good holiday, and you, Evan, as well. Thanks to everyone who's been listening to this show since we started doing it. We really enjoy coming back every month, and we'll see you again in the new year.